Hello and welcome to the ESCAPUZZLED Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things escape rooms, virtual, tabletop and immersive experiences. I'm your host Corey, and as always is my puzzle pal Helena.
Hello Corey, you are sounding amazing.
Thank you very much. I'm having a wonderful day today, and we are joined by some incredible guests today. We have the incredible hosts of the Escape Break podcast, Ezekiel Cager Ky, Beth Divel and Tatiyana Abarro. Their podcast explores the incredible escape rooms of Southern California and often beyond, talking to industry professionals, owners and creatives. What I haven't mentioned is these guys, alongside the Reality Escape Pod, are the main reason for this podcast existing. So thank you for that, guys, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us, Corey, Helena. We're happy to be here. I'm excited, and this is amazing. Being in an international podcast to us is a dream come true.
That's so sweet.
Very excited to have you guys on the other side of the pond, on the airwaves.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I have to start the episode with some honest truth. When you guys first came out, all I saw was the Instagram handle, and I thought your name was Escape Puzzle Duck, and I had no clue what you guys were. So I'm much more educated now, but just want to let you know you were Escape Puzzle Duck at one point in my life.
That's fair. We've had all sorts. We've had Escape Puzzle, we've had ESCAPUZZLED, we've had people say all sorts of things, which
I do enjoy the ESCAPUZZLED because I like the idea of it being uzzled.
yeah, it's a very weird one. It's a logistical nightmare, and I thought being creative with the name would be smart. Turns out it's a pain in the butt. But it is what it is. Obviously, here on the ESCAPUZZLED podcast, we love to do our quick fire questions, which turn out to never be quick fire, but we have our escape room player profiles in which we like to ask some questions to get to know you guys from an escape room player perspective. The first one, as always, is our player stereotypes. So we put out a blog post a little while ago with the different stereotypes that we found in escape rooms and sort of what we think each player could potentially be. People have added to these. People have taken away from these. We've changed the list quite a few times. But what would you guys say are your typical stereotypes in an escape room?
Yeah, when I saw the list, I couldn't just pick one. So I feel like I'm a mixture of things depending on what the room is. Definitely competitive. I think that's what started my drive for escape rooms. I'd like to think I'm very organized without escape rooms. I think that's just my natural tendency, and an overthinker sometimes, because sometimes when we're in rooms, we're like, oh man, what could this be? And we just deep dive into the hardest possibilities when really it's like, just look to your right and push gently. And we're like, oh, dang it. We should have known that. And in scary rooms, I am the capital THE scaredy cat. So those are my stereotypes.
I don't think we've ever had anyone that's just fit into a single stereotype, to be fair. So that's understandable. How about for you, Kai?
I believe and maybe dream that I am the leader, but only in the last 10 minutes of the game. I'm very much a passive player. I like people coming together. I like sharing. But if we get into those final 10 minutes of the game, in my mind and my ego, everyone looks at me and says, Kai, what do we do? And I have the answer.
Saving grace at the back end of the game.
I definitely couldn't pick one for myself. I picked the puzzle nerd for myself because I think that's why I got into escape rooms. The moment that I solved my first puzzle, I was like, oh my God, what is this high that I'm feeling? Like, I just love puzzles. So from then on, I love going to the rooms with the craziest puzzles, the hardest puzzles, the most puzzles. But if I'm playing a scary room, then I'm totally a scaredy cat. Somebody has to carry me the whole way. I'll like whisper the answers from the other side of the room and I'll be like, it's 2. I'm crying.
From that one lit corner of the dark room.
Exactly. The one where I can see everything and nobody's going to come at me from like behind me.
If I recall, Helena, you like scary, and Corey, you don't like scary. Correct?
I love scary.
No,
I absolutely love scary.
do
We both love
scary.
scary. Okay,
Yeah.
great. I need to hang
Can
out with you
do.
guys because I
Don't
work
love.
with these two who generally have to coerce into doing scary games.
Hey now, we feed your
like, I'll
ego,
do it.
sir. I think it works out just great.
Listen, I'm here for entertainment.
Yes, thank you, Beth.
Yeah, I enjoy scary. That doesn't mean I'm good with scary.
Yeah. Well, actually, we've just done a scary room together, and at some points, I literally held on to Kari, and I was like, "I'm so sorry, Kari. That was a bit invasive." And he was like, "It's okay."
It was almost like Shaggy and Scooby-Doo. I was half expecting it to like leap into my arms, like teeth chattering.
It
But
was
no,
justified. Something moved.
yeah, there was noises and movement and darkness. It was terrifying, but thoroughly
My least
enjoyable.
favorite things.
I love it. I love Halloween, love horror films, love anything spooky.
I think I like the idea of it. I think that's my downfall. Is I'm like, yeah, I'd love to go and watch a scary movie. However, I will spend most of the time with my eyes closed on like a ghost train.
That's how I am. I'm like, I like looking back on the memories when I'm going through something spooky, scary. And I'm always like, oh, ha ha ha, that was so funny. But in the moment, I'm like, oh my God, I think I might die right now. I'm going to have a heart attack. But looking back on it, I have great stories.
Yeah, we can bring the entertainment for everybody else in the team. It's fine. So let's just segue perfectly into what is your favorite theme? So we've already found out that I guess Beth and Tatiyana don't like horror, but what is your favorite?
So my favorite theme is actually nostalgia room themes. So anything that goes back in time and brings back the elements of those periods or those eras. And I find myself having more excitement and freedom, and it's not very stressful. So I still get the puzzle part, but being happy, and I'm usually dancing of some sort. I love that. But yeah, that would be my favorite.
We need more dancing in escape rooms. I have yet to do a dancey escape room, but I've heard there's many where you actually have to
Yeah.
dance as an element of the room, which is very cool.
Maybe that's
Yeah.
something I need to write into a game. I think that needs to happen.
Do it. Highly recommend. Also, when dancing is not required, it's also fun to do on your own.
Yeah, it helps the game master's entertainment level if you just decide to dance. But
Oh, 9 times out of 10, I'm in an escape room purely for the Games Master's entertainment.
Yeah. Same with my
I'm
best
there
friend is.
acting like I'm a member on Survivor.
Yeah. I have
Playing up
had,
to the camera.
I have had teams where it was like a full team of teenage girls and they had to dance for clues just because I was so bored on Friday. And I was like, yep, the way you get clues, you have to dance. And they had a great time. It was kind of when all of the like the floss and all of those kind of dances were like really viral, and I was enjoying myself just watching these like teenagers dance really well as well, which is quite annoying. But they had the best time.
Sounds like my idea of hell. Children and TikTok dancers in the same room. Ugh.
certainly, certainly.
Sorry, I couldn't muffle the laughter on that one.
My favorite escape room theme, I used to say was adventure rooms, but that's entirely too broad. So I've defined it a little bit more to like role-based adventures, because I feel in an escape room, especially as you get more veteran in the game, it's all about making sure everyone feels like they played their part. So if your team is, Ocean's 11, you're the locksmith, you're the muscle, things like that, everyone has a part in the game. So I really like those types of games, whatever the theme may be within that role-playing adventure.
I would say my favorite theme is any magic theme, but I have to specify not Harry Potter. Not to say that I don't like Harry Potter. It's just I feel like I see a lot of Harry Potter rooms, but I love when there's a good magic room that's totally set apart from that. It's its own story, it has its own characters, its own magical wizardry world that feels like a completely different world that hasn't been written before. I just like feeling magical. I like
Are we
sparkle.
talking magic is in magic tricks or magic is in wizardry? Because they're two totally different
Wizardry.
things. Okay. Fair.
Yeah, more like wizardry, witches.
As a magician, I love seeing magic in a room. And we have a room that one of my friends runs in the UK where there is like live magic experience where there's a guy in the room doing tricks that progresses the story, which is very cool.
That sounds dope.
Yeah, you guys need to come over to the UK, hit some of our rooms.
Enjoy.
Probably not quite to the level of SoCal, but
That's
we're trying.
You never know.
Me being the negative Nancy, as apparently always, let's flip this on its head. What would you guys say? I think we might know the answer for some of these. What would you say is your least favorite theme?
Well, I think you were thinking horror is my least favorite, but I'm
What?
actually going to say lab rooms are my least favorite. And
Okay.
that's a personal bias of mine. I work in a lab every day. So when I get
Already
to an
want to escape.
Yeah, exactly. I am the escape room person at work, and people will send me those memes where it's like, oh man, this is such a hard escape room. And then it says, boss says, you're at work. Like, that's how
Elena
people
sent me
say
that
it.
exact meme this morning.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yes. So whenever I step into a lab, I'm like too critical of it. I'm like, oh, that's not realistic. Or like, oh gosh, I can't, like it's just not as fun for me. So personally, mine would be lab rooms. I think it's cool what you can do in an escape room with the lab elements and the science and the math. But since I do it every day, I'd like to not do it for fun.
That's fair. Completely understandable.
My least favorite is very well known. It is anything involving outer space. I just don't like it. I think it's impossible to truly bring the real outer space into a simulated escape room. So it just misses the mark and it bores me to the point where people actually don't think I believe in space. But I do believe in space. I just don't like space rooms.
Sorry, I couldn't. I don't believe in space. It's so funny.
Yeah, those stars in the sky, projection.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fake.
Exactly.
CGI, they're just green screening our eyes in real time. It's absurd.
Is it because you don't think that you'd ever be in that position, so you just can't believe you're in it when you're doing an escape room?
That's partially it. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know. I mean, perhaps I should talk to someone who's been to space and take them to a space room and say, how realistic was this? And if they tell me it actually was, then maybe my mind will change.
I mean, if somebody could simulate zero gravity in an escape room, that would be sensational.
Ooh.
Like one of those zero gravity planes, maybe putting an escape room on one of those. That would
Corey,
be,
that would change my mind
would be
immediately.
wild.
Yeah,
That would change my life.
I know.
Would be a nightmare to reset.
Yes.
Oh my
Have to
god,
have
yeah.
everything chained to the ground.
You'd have to have everything on like little zip cards, so it could be like back.
That'd be a smart idea. We should just reset all rooms like that with zip
I
ties.
know.
Or not zip
Well,
ties. Zip
I've
cords.
heard from other podcasts about self-resetting rooms where things like actually do pull back into
Mhm.
place, and that's crazy. That concept's insane.
I understand the mechanics of it, and I understand how I would build it, but actually running, like, I loved my resets, and I know that's really sad because a lot of people who run escape rooms are like, our resets are really boring, but I like to challenge myself and be like, I can reset this whole room in under 2 minutes. And when like people would come in and be like, how long does it take you to reset this whole room? And one of them is a really big game, it's over 3 rooms, and I'd be like, well, it takes Alexander Hamilton from the show Hamilton to reset this whole room, which I think is 3 minutes 20. And as long as I've like got him being like in my ears, I can just smash it out.
That's adorable. I love that answer.
Yeah, there you
Resetting with the
go.
spirit of Hamilton.
Honestly, I don't know why. And if I ever heard of, pardon me, are you Aaron Burr, sir? I'd be like,
I need to reset this room.
Oh my
Every
God,
time it comes on at a party or like an event, she's immediately cleaning and tidying up.
It's like the Pavlov.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, we're at the escape room.
I can't listen to it anymore. I think I've really soured myself off that whole show. But we all had a
Oh.
moment in 2020/2021 that we all absolutely hammered Hamilton, and I love it. I love it so much. It can continue.
Oh yeah.
I love
Hamilton
musicals,
is one of my favorites. It's a classic in my eyes because that came out when I was in high school and I was a big theater nerd. And we all were just screaming Aaron Burr, sir.
I'm very much
The whole
looking
thing.
forward to Dear Evan Hansen coming to
Oh,
our local city in
no.
the next like month.
You'll really
Can't
enjoy
wait.
it.
Hadestown is also a great musical. Who
Hadestown.
said that? This is a
Oh.
musical podcast.
Sorry. If I could do a musical podcast, I would do one. But it takes like I did do like 2 hours of radio and it was just musical and I loved it, but I just don't have the time for it. Okay, should we get back into this podcast and you can cut all of that out? Thank you.
No, that's staying in. This is what the people want to hear.
Yeah, the real
Musical
us.
recommendations from an escape room podcast.
Yeah. Okay, so we've gone through your favorite themes, your least favorite themes, but when you are in escape rooms, what are your favorite kinds of locks to encounter?
I kept it pretty simple. I did a unique lock and key. And I don't mean just like your regular padlock with a key. I have been in rooms where the key is so ornate and the lock is either built into something and you have to find it, or the lock itself is gorgeous or something along those lines. I actually find those very exciting because it's that physical tangibleness of finishing a puzzle or starting a new section in a room.
And the satisfying mechanic and clunk that you get when you turn a key in a lock is just, oh, it's different.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, the clunk. That's where I am too. For me, it's latches. For me, it's running away from the werewolf and you get to the final door and there's 7 latches vertically down the door and you have to click, 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 click to get out. That's it for me. It's just a latch.
Mine is the cryptex. The little, is that considered a lock? You usually locks a key
Yeah.
inside of it.
Yeah, we'll class that as a lock. It's mine as well, so we're classing it as a
Yeah.
lock.
We think it's a lot.
Yeah, I love a cryptex. I just think they're really pretty, and like when you see a really big one and it looks like it's made of gold marble and like that's a heavy duty thing, and I like being able to carry that around the room and go, oh, that's the code, and then you just feel so accomplished.
Yeah, I love it when you're carrying a cryptex for a while, but you don't have the
Mhm.
code, and you just like, I feel like I'm on some sort of TV program or like an Indiana Jones adventure,
Mhm.
and I'm just carrying this relic that eventually I will have the answer to. But for the time being, it's just going to look cool in my hand.
Mhm. It also makes me feel safe because, if I'm in a scary room, I have something heavy in my hand.
Jeez.
I'm just kidding. I'm not doing
Anything's a
that.
weapon.
And they're always
I'm not
like,
a fighter.
super
I'm a fighter.
heavy. They're always like super heavy as well. It doesn't matter if they've got nothing inside of them or like a tiny little key inside. They're always like heft.
Yeah. You like drop one and it's almost like a hydro flask being dropped on like in the middle of a street.
Adding to
Yeah.
the scares of a room.
I've watched a lot of cryptexes be dropped in my time, and it will never not make me shit myself when all I hear is, I'm like, oh no. Well, it's either broken or you've broken yourselves. What is happening?
To flip this completely on its head again, what would you say is your least favorite puzzle? What do you walk into a room and see and just think, ugh, not this again?
This one was super easy for me. It's riddles. I'm not a fan of riddles. I don't like any of that. I can solve them, but not a huge fan. I like the physical aspect of rooms, so I think that misses the mark for me.
I feel like riddles as well. You either know the answer or you don't. There's not
Yeah.
really a sort of way around it, and 9 times out of 10, it just takes forever to get to said answer.
I've been in multiple rooms where we're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's the answer. No, we just put it into a lock and it opens it. There's no gratification for me.
Yeah, you're not like really working it out. There's no steps to it. There's not a beginning, middle, and end. There's just oh, we've got to work this out now. Okay.
But Tati, what if you were about to cross a bridge and a troll came out and said, you got to pass my riddles 3 to get across? Does that make it better?
Thank you for bringing back my Dora ears.
I don't know. I like riddles, but to each their own. My least favorite is some sort of cipher, especially if it's an alpha cipher and then it's shifted a couple letters. I feel like you start getting into the tedious tasks of escape rooms, and one person in the group is the one that has to swallow the pill and take the pencil and paper and write everything down. And that's not really that fun to do.
Agreed. I always give Helena those puzzles.
It's Mark. I absolutely love a cipher. You might hate it, fair enough, totally understand. I think that it's a really good time waster puzzle in building escape rooms. So I've put them into several of my games, and also I enjoy doing them.
I hate it because it's a time waster.
Is there a better cipher than others?
I think letters to symbols or symbols to letters is a lot better than letters to letters. I think
Okay.
letters to letters can get really easily mucky because you're like, it's O, but while the person writing, I think it gets mucky when the other person's writing it down because you're all just saying letters. But if it's symbols to letters, it can be like the smiley face gives you R, and it's a bit easier to decipher when you're writing things down. But I think the letters to letters can really mess people up. But I also like it when I think I like the construction of them because you can make them fucking huge. And it can be like a whole team has to move an entire wall to get a cipher in the correct position. So there's a lot of like team stuff that you can add to it, or it might be like you need to put the cipher together before you can actually use it, which is fun. But yeah, I'll stop shitting on you. Your least favorite puzzle there.
No, I'm open to hear it. That's actually pretty cool. If I'm moving a wall, I think maybe you've solved the recipe of where the cipher could be of use.
That sounds cool. That sounds cooler than the ciphers I've done. Yeah, so maybe it's just the way that they're presented.
My least favorite puzzle to see in an escape room is Sudoku. And while I love Sudoku, I just can't really respect the decision to put Sudoku in an escape room, considering that like not everybody knows how to do it. And then if you're also going to like slap directions right next to it, just take out the puzzle. I don't know. Sudoku is one of those things where I'm like, I sit down and I do Sudoku with a little cup of tea, but I don't want to do that in like an intense escape room.
What are your strengths in an escape room?
My strength, I kind of touched on it earlier, is being pretty organized. I feel like I'm flexible to work with the different people in the different groups that I'm in, depending on the room. So if there are people that are more advanced, just the way that I play is a little bit differently compared to if there are people that are not as advanced, like beginners or it's their first time. I'll definitely step back more than I would normally just so that they can enjoy the room a little bit more, but still push them when I feel like I'm almost like a game master in the room while playing, just because I want them to have such a great and fantastic time. Whereas if I'm playing with Beth and Kai, like we're splitting up, we're communicating, but we're also like going super fast and we're doing all the puzzles at the same time, if it allows, if it's not a linear room. So it's a different dynamic. So I feel like just being organized and flexible are probably, and very positive, are probably my strengths as a person.
I agree with your strengths as a person. I would say my strength in escape room is I'm unusually calm, like, no matter what. It's very hard to see me any levels above how you normally see me. So no matter the pressure of the room, I'm pretty even keel, and that helps me also in the scary adventures as well. So just probably just that natural calm in the puzzle solving scenario.
Do you think that calmness then spreads across the team, or does it just tend to be you being calm and everybody else panicking? Like by the shaking heads, I'm assuming that's not the case.
Yeah, I don't think I have like a immersion effect around me where people take on my personality, because especially these two, they're super high strung energy, which I love. It balances me out, especially in the podcast world.
I was just about to say that leads into my strength, because while you're very calm, I'm batshit crazy in like every escape room I do. But it's just because I'm excited about everything. I'm like, ooh, a secret door. Ooh, cool ceiling. Like I will get excited over so many random details, and I hope I just bring good vibes to the room. But I also like to be very aware of the type of group I have, like Tati. And if it's a new group, I'll let them do their thing. And sometimes they'll ask me questions like, does this made in China sticker mean anything? And that's kind of just where I have to sit there and go, no, just like a very small nod. But when I'm with these guys, I like to think I'm really killer at puzzles, and I like being able to solve them. Sometimes I do it on my own. That is kind of not very communicative of me, but I'm good at them sometimes.
Nice to have guests actually agreeing on other people's strengths, because we have a lot of guests where they're like, my strength is this, and the other person pipes up with, no, it isn't.
So rude. That's so rude.
Called out. We love that.
I think it helps when we've all played multiple rooms together. So we definitely know each other's strengths and weaknesses. I mean, everyone has weaknesses.
Speaking of which, what are said weaknesses?
So said it earlier, I cannot move in a scary room. I literally freeze. I cannot function. Very similar to Beth, where she said like she's on the other side of the room saying stuff and trying to quote unquote help. That is the most I can do. I have a really hard time when I know there's an actor in the room, and I always will tell the game master or whoever's running our room, it doesn't matter. I'll tell everybody that works there, even if you're not running my room. If there's an actor, please tell them to be careful, because my reaction is to punch, and it's not a good one. So I try my best. Also, Kai and I did I don't even know if it was scary, honestly. We did a scary room together, just the two of us. I felt so bad for him. I was apologizing the entire time because I either had to be like holding onto his arm or like in a position where I couldn't be attacked at all times. It was bad. It was so bad. I don't think Kai ever wants to do a scary room with just me again.
I would, but to further detail it, it was to the point where it wasn't just I had to do all the scary tasks. Even if I did go do a scary task, that left Tati alone, which turned into a scary situation because alone is scary. So there was one point where she had to like hold on to my pinky and I had to like stretch myself into the other area of the room and somehow be two places at one time. So that's how bad she is at like scary rooms.
So holding a pinky.
Yes, because I had to have physical contact because like what if there was a door that separated us? Oh, I would have lost my mind. And also the game master was an amazing game master that they like read us very well. And he actually took out some of the extra scares because he knew how bad I was. I felt bad for Kai because he didn't get the full experience, but thank goodness for my heart because who would have known? So yeah, definitely scary rooms. You don't want just me as your partner.
Thank goodness for your heart, and thank goodness for the Games Master's safety as well on the other side of those hands.
Yeah.
It was
At least
great.
you were honest and you were like, I will throw hands.
Oh yeah, I will.
That's so funny. My weakness is I'm not strong enough, and it's respectful to the rooms. Like there's usually some sort of a window that maybe is on a track that slides up. And because I used to work in escape rooms and I know how infuriating it can be when people break the rooms, I barely use any strength at all. So I'll like touch the window seal and move along and be like, nothing's here. And then we'll eventually ask for a hint. And they'll say, why don't you push a little harder on that window? So that's my weakness, at least if I'm answering the question myself. But I would actually love to hear what you two think my weakness is. I'm going to take that silence as nothing. No
No
weakness.
weaknesses.
Chill out on your ego, bro.
Yeah.
Let me think. Let me
If
cook,
you didn't
bro.
say it, I would.
Yeah, they're currently writing a list. That's what the silence is.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm writing ego as
You can hear
number
the
one.
pencil
That's your
right
weakness.
No, Kai's a great partner to do rooms with. We've done multiple rooms, just the two of us, or in a big group. But I think, honestly, I can't really think of a negative right off the bat.
Come on, Taddy. We're here to
Oh,
stir
I
up
can think of
drama.
one.
I'm trying. He's a. I'm for real though. Like, there's a reason why him and I have been such good friends for such a long time, and I think that just like him as a person, you have to really like a person to be locked in a room just with them, right, for at least an hour. So I think this just attributes to like what I think of Kai as a person. But in escape rooms, damn, I can't think of any. Kai, you're awesome.
I thought of
Meanwhile,
one.
Beth's over here
I
cooking.
appreciate it, Tati. Beth, give it to me.
That was
Let it
too
rip.
While
nice.
I love you so much. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to start it off like that. No, you are an awesome partner to like go through escape rooms with. But I will say, and I don't know if this is considered a weakness for like, you know, your success rate with escaping the room. But when you don't like a room, I will know it in the middle of the game.
That's a good one.
It's true. We'll still play the game.
We're still going to play it for sure. But I'll be like, I'll look around and Kai's just like, what?
Cowling.
What is this? And I go, I don't
Visibly
know, man.
unhappy.
We got to get out.
I know, but I will say, like, I play with people where they don't like it and they just don't participate, and I'm like, "Ooh,
Yeah.
that's bad." So
I've watched that happen and it's so gutting. And you're like, please just enjoy it.
it's uncomfortable.
It's
'cause-
honestly cringy to watch.
Yeah, you can
Mhm.
make it enjoyable. Like, even if the
Yes.
room's not great, you have the power to make it great.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. But that's a good one, Beth. I appreciate that.
Otherwise, you're exiting via the window. That's
Yeah.
the other option.
My weakness is definitely being a scaredy cat. My anxiety just always gets the best of me. Kai has witnessed this quite a few times, but one time in particular, I just had like a straight up panic attack in the room. I was out of commission, brain out of commission. I'm trying to solve this puzzle, and I think I couldn't even tell Kai what I was trying to do to solve it. And he's like, please tell me. And I'm crumbling to the floor. And Kai's just now alone in the room while I'm on the floor crumbling. So my anxiety definitely gets the best of me in scary escape room specifically, but there are times where I'll play like a perfectly family friendly room and somehow I make it scary by something unlocking a little loudly. And then I scream bloody murder and everybody's like, dude, chill. It's Christmas. This is a Christmas room.
There has been a few times in rooms where I've folded like a deck chair at just like loud noises. Like, not okay. I've just hit the floor and I'm like, yep, this is not good. This is embarrassing. Get myself up as
Yeah,
quick as
it
I
could be
can.
like a
Hoping
knock
no
on
one
the
saw.
front door.
Anything,
And I'm
even like radios going for a hint. I'm like, ah! Not good. Not good at all.
The tiniest little beep. And I go, what was that? Who is that?
Or I overcomplicate it and I'm like, was that a clue? Like, no, that was a radio beeping.
Yeah, or I
Is
just
that
think
Moscow?
I'm crazy.
So we've already heard that you guys are an absolute dream team. So you have to come up with a team consisting of you three and one each individual who you would like to join your team of 6.
So knowing that it's the 3 of us and Beth and I are already like high strung, high intensity, in case you haven't noticed, I would want to bring someone that brings the chill along to kind of help with Kai's chill. So I don't think you'll know them, but this is my partner. This is my spouse. And he's my partner in crime in real life. But he is like the perfect complement to my high strung personality. And he's very chill and calm. And he's the type of person where if you're in a room, he'll be like, did you guys notice this over here? Like, just very calmly as we're trying to figure out what to do next. And we're like, no, why didn't we think of that? And so then that just helps us progress. But that's like his role. It's the silent, helpful, calm demeanor that he has and the good vibes. He'll definitely dance along as well. So knowing that this is the group we're bringing, that's who I'm bringing to the group.
I'm going to add in Rocket Raccoon because I think Rocket is super smart. Is definitely the gadget guy of the group. And should there be any crawling, he's the one.
He's got it. He's all over it.
Rocket's humor is fantastic, but
Yeah.
Rocket would definitely be setting off my allergies with all of that fur.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'd be sneezing in that room like there's no tomorrow.
I would bring my Uncle Fred. He actually had passed before I got into escape rooms, but I think about it all the time. I'm like, he would have loved this stuff. He was super into like Disney and he was into theater. He did a lot of set design. And so he just loves like out of this world sets. He loves like the detail that's put into creative work and like in the entertainment industry. So every time I do an escape room, I'm like, he would have loved this. And he was also a puzzler. Like he was like deep into a newspaper doing all the little New York Times puzzles or whatever.
Oh, that's such a wholesome team. This is such
Yeah,
a.
this is
I'm
really sweet.
also really glad that you guys weren't like, just to clarify, on my dream team, these guys would not be here. Can we? Or I would drop this one person. We're not throwing hands just yet, but
Oh,
maybe
no.
the later
Okay.
questions will get some juiciness out. I think that might actually be the fastest we've ever got through our quickfire questions.
Yeah,
And there's 3
well
of you
done,
giving
guys.
3 different answers, so fair play.
You smashed
Good
it.
job, guys. Good job.
I can kind of yap fast. Let's go. Let's do it.
Let's see if this is maintained throughout. Obviously, we spoke about what you guys are like in an escape room environment, but what are your escape room origin stories? Why escape rooms? How did you get into them, and how did you 3 meet?
Nice. I'll start with this one because it kind of always accumulates to what the podcast is. But I used to work in escape rooms. I started in escape rooms just because I needed a job and I thought it was nerdy and cool. And I like to think I'm nerdy and cool. But I actually worked with Tati's ex-boyfriend. And when they broke up, Tati and I stayed friends. And so that was kind of how we met. We started then playing rooms together. And eventually it led to bringing her on the podcast. I met Beth on New Year's Day or something like that with one of my friends. I went to go play an escape room she was working at. And coincidentally enough, the friend that I was with is an extreme haunter. And so he does like haunted houses, but he does the ones with like levels of legitimate torture.
Yeah, like McKamey
And-
Manor and those kinds of places.
Exactly. So while I was trying to be cordial and make a friend to Beth, I had my friend also saying, hey, you should do this thing where you get suffocated and shocked. And I walked away from that escape room thinking, Beth's probably not going to want to hang out with me ever again. Luckily, she did. And we did a huge escape room trip as one of our first official hangouts. And the mutual love and fanaticness of escape rooms have all brought us together to do this podcast.
Nice. But Beth and Tati, were you guys doing escape rooms before you sort of met Kai, or is it something that sort of came from that?
I had just graduated high school and I had only done one escape room at that point. And right after graduating, I did another escape room and I really needed a job and was like, this seems cool. Do you guys need another friend here? And 2 weeks later, I started working there and I've worked at like 3 different escape room companies since then because I just keep moving. But throughout all that time, I've done tons of escape rooms. That was how I met Kai, and then through Kai was how I met Tati, and then the escape room podcast happened along the way.
Yeah, for me, I started doing them in 2015, and I actually did it because I found a Groupon. Back then, that was a very popular way to find escape rooms because they weren't very well known. So it was myself, my ex-boyfriend, and then we had littles. So we were in college, so we had littles, and we decided to do like a fam event, and we chose to do an escape room. Well, 8 people in an escape room for the first time. That's kind of chaotic. We did not get out. And then me being competitive, my ex and I, we went the next day and we were like, we need to do this again and we need to escape. And that's where just like the competitiveness in me drove me to do more and more and more. It's like just fueling the fire inside. And so that's why I love doing escape rooms. As Kai mentioned, he started working where my ex was. And I was always like, every time I had free time, I would go to the escape room. I would chill with all of them. I would chill with them outside of work because they were a good group of people and we would just have a good time. So that's how I really got to know Kai. And then even before the escape room podcast, Kai started a podcast prior interviewing people. And I was one of the first people he interviewed. So, and Kai and I have been really solid friends for a very long time. And I met Beth through Kai.
Is it bad that I forgot that I was also interviewed on the Cager Express? There's just like, there's a lot of history. Okay. I forgot a couple details.
Which segues perfectly into the next question, which is obviously having played a lot of escape rooms, what made you then get into podcasting? This question's probably more directed towards Kai, but obviously you then roped in these 2 guys as well, and it's become an incredible journey from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So podcasting for me was probably the usual origin story for a lot of podcasters. People saying in your friend group, we should start a podcast. And given the pandemic and the inability to do the normal things outside, I was stuck in my room and I needed social stimulation. So I started a podcast, which was just me talking to my friends. And I said, hey, if it's interesting enough, let's just put it on the internet and see who wants to listen to us. That's where it all kind of started. And then as I got to know Beth more, and some of my natural interview guests were people I knew in the escape room community, Beth kind of encouraged me to go through with my idea of switching it to an escape room show.
I was pushing it hard.
Very hard. We went on a, it was kind of awkward and chaotic, but it worked out because that's what we are.
I don't think it was awkward at all. There was not an awkward silence once.
Not that, but the concept, the concept that the first time I hung out with Beth one-on-one was a trip out of the city to go play 4 escape rooms in a row. So like a whole day together with no way to escape because we were in the same car. It went tremendously well. On the drive back, there was like a wind sandstorm because we were going across the desert. And so we had to drive really slow and we just chatted the whole time. And that encouraged me to say, hey, let's do escape break. I actually told her, let's do 4 episodes and then make a decision if we want to continue the show. And by the 2nd episode, we were like, let's do more. So that's how I got into it, to bring Tati in, Tati being one of my best friends. And I just needed more bandwidth and just more opinions. I decided to bring Tati in to help balance out some of the rigor of doing an escape room show and letting people have breaks when they need it, those types of things. So having the trio has really become a dream come true.
Oh, you guys take breaks? It's ridiculous.
I am very mentally unwell. No,
gotta take
realistically,
sanity
though,
breaks.
it's nice to take a break for life.
Yeah, that's fair. I just struggle through. It's great.
Yeah, it's called gritted teeth. We got this.
If I could reposition the question to Beth and Tati, did either of you feel hesitant being on a podcast, having your voice be out there in public? How did you feel when I asked you to do the show?
Well, you asked me originally before Escape Break,
Mhm.
and you're like, "Oh, I just, I don't know how the logistics are." And I remember having the conversation with you, like, we can make this easier and like helping you find platforms to stream to multiple different places and like talking about the logistics. And I had no problem being your guinea pig, so to speak, and being the first one to be interviewed. And it was so easy. It was just us chit chatting, really. And it just became, I don't know, more than what I ever thought it would be. Like to be interviewed internationally right now about escape rooms to see what it started and has evolved into is pretty wild to me. And also, I don't know, for me, just like people wanting to hear our opinions and our stories, I think that's wild. And just like to who's listening, I have no idea. And the fact that you guys want to listen, that's awesome. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoy the content we create. Like, I'm just going into this with some good vibes and hopefully funny stories for people to laugh at when they're listening.
This is something I often think about where I'm like, who is actually listening to this and
Yeah.
why are they listening to me drive on about escape rooms?
Right.
Like there's
People are listening, and I'm
there's
like,
way more
"Oh."
entertaining podcasts to listen to, like the Cager
Yeah.
Express and all of the
Well,
other
It's
ones. Why
so
listen to us?
wild when somebody comes up and they say like, "Oh, I love your podcast," and then I sit there and I start fangirling over them because I'm like, "You know what this is?
Oh, that's so lovely.
You know who we are?" Like, I love that.
It's so crazy. Like when we bring on guests, like there's obviously that massive imposter syndrome that I assume a lot of people get when they're bringing on like big names and things like that.
Yeah.
And they come on and they're like, "Yo, I've been listening to the podcast, absolutely love it." And I'm like, "You listen to us?"
Listened? What?
Yeah, it's super nice.
Even the intro, when you were saying how we helped start your podcast, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah. You
There's like-
guys and the Reality Escape podcast were the two sort of main sources of me wanting to do this. Obviously, having played a lot of escape games and just enjoying talking and geeking out about them, I was like, oh, I'll see what else there is on offer. And you guys were one of the two that sort of came up. Obviously, alongside the likes of the Infinite Escape Room podcast and podcasts like that, but they're a slightly different sort of format. And yeah, having listened to nigh on every episode now, I believe. Yeah, it's been a
You
big
smashed
catch up.
through that.
I absolutely love listening to podcasts. It's the same with the Infinite Escape Room podcast. They've got like 300 and something episodes, and I'm almost fully up to date.
Wow.
Wow.
But yeah, I can't thank you guys enough because without you guys doing what you do on the internet, this would never have been a thing.
That's
I'm
crazy to me.
sorry.
Well, it's so fun for us to do this. It's seriously, every time we hop on a call, I'm just like, oh, I love escape rooms and I love my friends that I've made through escape rooms. And I love that I just get to talk about escape rooms. And there are people out there that are kind of interested. And I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, it's nice.
Awesome.
It's nice for people that
Yeah.
actually listen because most of my friends are just like, shut up.
Oh, yeah.
No.
My friends will just say I have a podcast, but they won't listen to it. They'll be like, it's so cool. She does escape rooms. She has an escape room podcast. And I go, but do you know the content? And they go, no.
Yeah, what happened in the last episode,
Cool.
huh?
Yeah, exactly. Corey, I have a very random question.
Certainly.
Are you a completionist? Because you said you were almost caught up after 300.
I don't know. I'd have to look at my Apple podcast to see where I'm up to with you guys, but I don't believe I've listened to much of the actual Cager Express before it became Escape Break.
That's
Okay.
okay. That's okay.
Well,
Hey,
I'm just asking
one day I'll
because
be getting
I'm
back.
I'm one of those weirdos where if I find a podcast, I'll start all the way from when they started and then like do it till now, even if it's like years from today. I'm like
Yeah,
one of those
I am-
weirdos that will do that.
I'm also the same. I did that for the Infinite Escape Room. Rather than
Okay.
starting at where they're currently at, I went back to, I think they started in 2018. I started listening from then. And yeah, it's changed a lot since then. And we had them on, it'll be a few episodes ago prior to this. But in real life, it was like 3 days ago. I was just saying, like, the amount that it's changed over that time is just absurd. And I mean, it's the same for us. It's probably the same for you guys. It's probably changed a significant amount from when you started. I mean, it's now entirely an escape room based podcast, which, it must have been a strange shift, but I can imagine it's been a fun shift.
Yeah, it's been really fun.
Okay, so of all of your rooms that you've played, I think I listened today and it was like both of you were over 300, all of you were over 300, sorry, which is an obscene amount of games. So which one stands out as your all-time favorite? What would you go and actually replay?
So for me, I have a clear number one. It's Cutthroat Cavern, and that's in Louisiana. So for me, that build is unlike any build I have ever seen in my entire life. I not only appreciated the build, but the puzzles that were incorporated, the storyline, and the adventure that it takes you on as you're playing this room. My jaw literally dropped at one point. And I don't know if you guys have played this room, but if you haven't, I'm pretty sure it will give you that same reaction just because of what is in this room. I think we had a very solid group of players as well. The three of us played it together along with some other enthusiasts. So it was just a very strong group of players playing a puzzle heavy room with an amazing build. We had a great time. I think there are some close seconds and thirds that would be in the running to beat this room. But for me personally, this is my number one.
Yeah, it's a great room. We do a top 10 episode, a personal top 10 episode every now and then throughout the years. This one certainly up there, and I would agree with Tati. To give some variety, my favorite escape room is called Sal's Cybernetics out in Arizona. If there's any critique on Cutthroat Cavern, it's the puzzles are a little bit in the past, and Sal's Cybernetics is a bit of a newer room that really emphasizes on people coming together, working on puzzles so everyone's involved. There are moments of difficulty and there are moments of just pure comedy and laughter, and perhaps, Helena, you can imagine a puzzle that is created that just causes everyone to smile and say, okay, let's do this. Those types of things. It's an amazing thing. And to further detail too, especially sometimes forgetting that people listen that aren't as crazy as us. Cutthroat Cavern is a pirate game, and I know you guys don't like the pirates as much, but it's an amazing pirate game where you travel to the jungles, the islands, etc. to do something. And Sal's Cybernetics is a cyberpunk adventure where you're trying to take down a corporation who's perhaps the government for the wrong reasons, type of thing. So to give you some context on the game without spoiling anything.
That sounds like such a fun game.
Yeah, super fun.
Just to add to what Kai said for Cutthroat Cavern, the room was inspired by the movie The Goonies. If you have
I just
seen.
Googled
Love
it.
that.
It's very Goonie-ish. I think a lot of us, like, that is like an escape room. Imagine that as a whole escape room. I'd play it.
I just absolutely love when people put any sort of pop culture reference or Easter eggs into games. Just so much fun. Just seeing things and being like, you devious dog.
I need to play Sal's Cybernetics so badly, but my all-time favorite room on my list is the arena at Mine Trap, which is actually now closed. RIP. But that was basically a sadistic game show, and every player had to wear shock collars. And
Wow.
I'm sorry.
yeah. It's very different from like what anybody would expect to be my first room, considering I don't like scary that much. I mean, I like scary, I don't do well, but this was supposed to be a game that I feel like was solely entertaining for the game masters. They basically get to make fun of you. They get to call you dumbasses. They force you into a room and they just kind of verbally abuse you the whole time and call you dumb while you're trying to solve these puzzles. And you're trying to prove to this audience that is watching this game show that you are smart enough to escape this room. I mean, it's my favorite one because how many times can I say that I wore a shock collar in an escape room?
That's such a cool premise. I love
two
that.
times.
What?
I played that room twice.
Yeah,
Two shock collar times.
We liked it so much that Beth and I actually went back to play it before it closed. So
Oh, well, I can understand why it didn't pan out.
Yeah. It was
For
a
legal
quite a few
reasons.
years.
Yeah. How long ago did you play it?
Less than a
I
year
played
now.
it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I played it back in 2020 when they opened it like end of 2019, I think,
Mhm.
and then played it again earlier this year, right before they closed. And it
American
was
health and
different.
safety regulations are way less strict than the UK
Yeah,
ones by the
like-
sounds of it.
We can't even put shock collars on dogs. Like, forget about
Oh, yeah, these were
people.
dog shot colors.
Oh my gosh. Actually, no, we can source them, but we have to source them from overseas. You can't buy them in shops.
Interesting.
I disagree
Okay.
entirely with it, though. You shouldn't be shocking your dog.
Oh, people!
Or, well,
Unless
if you're
they
shocking
want
your
to be
dog,
shocked.
it needs to work
Don't
both
tell
them.
ways. You
Yeah,
need to give
yeah.
the dog the remote, and you need to put the collar on, so you get a bit back and forth. It's gotta be even Stevens.
Yeah, I understand vibration collar. Okay, we're going down Peter now. I understand vibration collars, so your dog can understand that.
Or the ones that squirt water. Like, you don't need to
Yeah.
physically harm something to get it to do
Why
something.
would you want to shock it? I know, but I guess in like an escape room.
Yeah, it's a totally different story. I'm fully up
Yeah.
for putting shock collars on people.
Yeah,
Um,
that's fine. I signed a waiver. I made a decision.
Yeah. You did it. You acknowledged
Did they
it.
tell you in advance that was going to happen, or is it just sign this waiver and something may happen?
They tell you in advance and they give you like multiple warnings up until you get into the room because you can
Wow.
tap out at any time then. But once you're in the room and you tap out, you can't go back in. You kind of are just like shit out of luck. You just sit out and wait for your team to finish. But they literally had a sign out front next to their front desk saying, "This is how many tap outs Arena has had." And it would
No
change
way.
every time I went to go visit.
Wow.
It was always going up.
And
That's such a weird flex.
yeah, how
Yeah.
often do you get shocked in the game? Is it just if you say something incorrectly?
No, you get shocked quite a bit. It's a game where there were puzzles that if you got them wrong, you would get shocked. But then there were also just moments where you would get shocked no matter what.
Oh,
So
And there were
I was not
puzzles
here
that
for
we
that.
needed to be shocked to figure out.
yeah, like
Oh,
kind
That's
of
cool.
testing theories and things. You got to like have someone brave enough to get shocked to get the feedback you need. But
Mhm.
as cruel as it may sound, it's certainly not as bad as it seems. Like
Yeah.
we've all done it, and some of us doing it multiple times.
yeah.
Have you ever had like the electro stimulation therapy, like for muscles or anything like that?
Yeah.
It feels like that on your neck, and you kind of like
Mhm.
twitch and stuff. And
Not enough to be painful, but enough to be like surprise. That's fair. I love any sort of like creativity in games, and I think it was you guys on one of your episodes mentioned bone conduction technology being put into a toothbrush.
yeah, that was insane.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you put a spoon in your mouth,
Oh yeah, it was a spoon, not a toothbrush.
and you bit down, and the person who had the spoon in their mouth could hear the code through some sort of bone conduction technology.
So cool, so creative. I love the
Brilliant.
potential for technology in
Yeah.
the future for escape rooms. I think it's going to be ridiculous. I hate technology in escape rooms at current because it never works, but
Mhm.
it's promising. It's a promising future. There's a lot of cool things in the works.
Yeah.
I love writing technology into escape rooms. Actually, not a lot of my tech is broken, so I can definitely.
Hard flex. Can't say that about any of the rooms that I've ever done with tech in them.
Really?
Yeah, like
Well,
8 times out of 10, I'd say tech goes wrong and somebody has to manually override it or come into the room.
8 out of 10.
Yeah, maybe
That's
I'm
really
doing the
good.
wrong rooms.
Yeah.
I got refunded for a game out in Los Angeles because the very last puzzle didn't work. And we had already bought our tickets and everything. And they were like, you can still play it since you're coming like from over an hour away. And I wish I could have seen that last puzzle because I know it would have been very cool. But I think it was over 60 minutes. Or yeah, I think it was like a 90-minute room. So I was still pretty happy with everything.
I was going to say, like 75 minutes of escape room for 0 monies? Sounds fantastic
yeah.
to me.
Yeah. How do you guys feel about getting refunds for games that go wrong or like really underwhelming games? If you tell, what would you do? Do you like tell your game operator, I'm really unhappy with this game? Or do you just kind of like ask, or do you not ask and they offer them?
Yeah,
Go on, Kai.
I can take this as being in a management position. the concept of refunds is very interesting. I think it's very much abused. If the game like literally breaks on you and it takes away the experience, then it is a conversation, in my opinion, of refund, or let's find a time you can come back and like, actually get the experience. If the game is just underwhelming, that's certainly an opinion. And to Corey's point earlier, any game could be fun. So it is the responsibility of the players to go into it with a good mind and not assume that every company has the money to put in the elaborate sets and the elaborate tech. So I would say less refunds than people ask for, in my opinion.
I agree with that. I feel like one of the issues with having done so many escape rooms, and I assume you guys might feel the same as well, is you then hold every escape room to such a high standard. Like, we've done some of the best ones in the UK, but then it inadvertently means when I go into a new escape room, I compare it to the best of the best, which is definitely not the way I should be doing it. So I try to be as open-minded as possible, but there's always things playing in the back of my mind where I'm like, it could be better.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with both Corey and Kai. And Kai, like, I think that maybe a refund sometimes isn't given, but if they say, let's make it up to you, you can either get a future free game or a future game at a discounted price, and please come back. Something along those lines is what I've encountered as far as personal experiences. And then to speak to rooms that are underwhelming, it's really difficult, kind of to what Corey's point was, is when you've played so many rooms and then you've also played some that are so magnificent and kind of in that like 1% of production value, it's hard because moving forward, you know that not all rooms are going to be that way. So it could still not be the greatest experience. But I think it's also the mindset that you go into these rooms with, right? And not have that expectation of, okay, these rooms are probably not going to be as good as these top 10 that I've played out of the 300. But I think there's still going to be solid builds, fun puzzles, and the people I bring with me are going to create a good experience.
One of the things as an enthusiast that we sort of have to bear in mind is most escape rooms aren't built for enthusiasts. They're built for muggles, let's call them. Escape room muggles that have never done escape rooms before, and it's their first experience, and to them it could be absolutely sensational, but to us it's like, this was a little underwhelming. But to your average Joe, this could be the best thing they've ever seen in their life, and it could spur them on to become enthusiasts further down the line. So yeah, I think every room has its potential, regardless of how we view it.
Exactly.
Hence why my reviews and opinions are obsolete.
Yeah. I feel like I really shouldn't have been like underwhelming. I should have taken that bit out.
Well, you've done it now,
I
so
meant,
it's staying
like,
in the edit.
underwhelming customer service or underwhelming interaction with staff members mostly.
That's where I get annoyed. If I get a bad game master, I won't forget about that. And it's gotten to a point where I just simply will not return to the facility.
Yeah, and you go, well, actually, your game might have been quite good, but not good vibes. I'm out.
I've definitely walked out of a place going, that room was fantastic, but damn, did they hate us?
Yeah.
What did we do?
I always see escape rooms as like such a lovely place to work and like such a fun job. And when you have something a bit overwhelming, you're like, oh, I was not expecting that.
It's like,
but
you have
that
one of the
is,
most
like-
enjoyable jobs on the planet. Please be
Yeah.
more enthusiastic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's honestly, I can count on one hand that kind of situation is like, oh, well, actually, that was underwhelming because staff were shit. Most of them are absolutely great, and they're always really funny, and I love it. Typically, they have madly coloured hair, and they're just generally an absolute delight. And you're like, "What's your name?" And they'll be like, "It's Magic Star." And you're like, "Yes, that's what I needed."
Short of
And
the
you're like,
name,
I love you.
yeah, short of the name Magic Star, I think you described Beth when she was a game master, like
Oh, I
full
described
time. With
myself.
We are the same.
Yeah.
Is your secret name Magic Star?
No.
It is now.
No.
It is
It is
now,
now.
yeah.
Being a
No,
game
but
master was just so much fun. Like, and you got to meet the coolest people. You got to meet so many people that just want to have a good time. And you're like, and I am here to make sure that you also have a good time. And I'm going to have a good time with you guys because I have to do this
Yeah.
8 times today.
And if I don't, it will be a very long day.
Especially when I was like thinking about how I train people to run games as well. But you can be having the shittest day of your life in that office, but as soon as you see other people that are coming to play games, that doesn't matter anymore. You be excited, you be bubbly and funny, and you put on a show because it is a show, isn't it? When you're running games, it's not just it's not just the game; it's a whole show.
Yeah, I think one of the cool things about being an escape room games master and operator is being able to create memories for people. Like, there's not
Absolutely,
many
yeah.
jobs where you can have that big an effect. Like, let's be honest, the likes of a McDonald's worker is not going to create some sort of big event when you go to pick up your burger that's going to like leave a long lasting memory. But the likes of an escape room host can do that. They can leave a memory that could change their future. There's been escape games I've done in the past that then led me to doing what we're doing today. So yeah, it's down to people like that that can really shape the future for both escape rooms and for the people playing them.
I love that you brought that up because some of my most unforgettable memories at like working at an escape room is like doing the marriage proposals or the big birthday parties or like giant team building events or something like that. You know, it's whatever, it's team building, it's a company event. But sometimes those are their first rooms and they get so excited and to have 3 full rooms so hyped up and they're in full suit and ties. I'm like, this is a good memory for these guys.
And yeah, they've probably made like a really lovely team environment as well by doing an escape room. If you are thinking about doing an escape room for a corporate event, oh my god, do one, please.
Oh, it's genius to do.
I feel like this is a very controversial topic because some people, I feel like there's not really an in between here. Some people are very for it and some people are very against it. I've heard a lot of people say it's the worst thing possible because it's high intensity and you're not actually going to get to see how people work. You're just going to get put into this stressful situation. It's not realistic, doesn't have applications that come across. But on the flip side, I completely disagree with that. And I think if you can get through an escape room with people that you spend all day, every day with, and come out the other end without throwing hands, I think that shows you work well as a good team. And anybody that's not making it through that shouldn't be on the team.
Yeah, they're fired.
If it worked that way, that would be awesome.
Maybe every company should hire via escape rooms.
Yeah, that'd be great. Can I ask a derailing question to your show notes?
Certainly.
Heck yeah, you can.
How do you two feel about dating in escape rooms? Do you feel
Well,
like
First dates in an
an
escape room?
escape room? Yeah, do you feel like
I
a first date
don't
in
know
an
how I
escape room?
feel about that because you can certainly get to know a person very quickly in an escape room environment. But if I was on a first date, I would not want them to see me in an escape room environment first because, yeah, I am super competitive in an escape room. I just want to blast through the game as fast as I can. I want to be doing all of the cool stuff, which is just not the right way to have a first time experience with somebody. You want to do something that you can like share and do together and like really sort of create memories. But the memory would be this guy came in, he just answered all of the puzzles. I didn't get a chance to do anything. We spent like 30 minutes in a room and then we left and never spoke again. And that's not the the sort of memory I want to leave for me. So I think
Fair enough.
easing somebody into an escape room beforehand is definitely the way to do it, in my opinion.
I have
I'm
done
sorry.
many first dates in an escape room.
Yeah, I did me and my husband. Our first date was in an escape room, and him unknowingly booked a game that I had already done, and I didn't
Oh.
tell him.
Oh, please tell me
Actually,
you just went into that room like a super genius and just
I
flexed like blitzing through. No way.
I don't think he actually knows this. Can you cut it out of the podcast?
Nope.
So you can't.
Nope.
Well, I'm going to say it. Okay. So he booked Volatile Labs in Newcastle, and it is an absolutely brilliant game. It is a lab game. I'm sorry, Kai, but I really enjoyed it. And yeah, we went and did an escape room. And to be fair, I think at that point, Actually, we'd been on a couple of dates. It was probably like third date, and we had a brilliant time. And at that point, I was like, okay, this guy's good. I'll keep him. But I basically like swanned through the entire game, being like, this is in here, and I think that's magnetic, and ooh, and I looked incredibly smart, so I really enjoyed that.
That's so
I've
great.
heard from a lot of like escape room games masters and owners that there are people that do that, where they will specifically bring dates
Oh, yeah.
to rooms that they've already done just to flex their knowledge, which as a concept is absolutely insane.
We had a whole episode about this, just kind of being on opposite sides. So I felt Kai was more open to it being a first date, and we kind of set that precedence if it was like the first one or farther down the line. So Kai was more in the camp of first date, whereas I think that's maybe a little bit later down on kind of to Corey's argument. Me in an escape room is not entirely me at my best in real life. So I don't want someone's first impression to be like, she's intense and super insane. Even though I know I can be that sometimes, I just don't think escape rooms bring out my best qualities.
Yeah, that's something that you have to highlight on the first date.
Yeah, exactly. And I would want to just have a little bit more conversation first about the person. And I hold escape rooms near and dear to my heart. And so I don't want to go into an escape room that I think is going to be good and have a bad experience and then maybe not like the room because I had a bad experience with someone I had just met.
Fair.
That's fair.
I've run a lot of first dates. And actually, I got one of my game operators from their first date. He came in with this girl and he was super bubbly and super lovely. Just came to the city because he was a university student. And like by the end of his game, he basically had a job with me. And, and like it was his first date with this girl. And like I kind of forgot about it completely. And then I interviewed him and I was like, I remember you. How did your date go? Are you still dating this girl? And he was like, no, we never saw each other again. And I was like, oh, sorry about that. That might have been my fault.
I'm curious as to the statistics of successful first dates in an escape room.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be a really interesting statistics to find out.
Based off of the ones that I know of, those people are not with the people anymore.
Yeah. Like, I don't think I've ever seen somebody return with the
There we
same
go.
person. Yeah.
If you're listening to the podcast and you're thinking about going on a first date to an escape room, think twice.
Kai, anything?
You're outnumbered here, Kai.
As
I
Tati
like
mentioned, we have a whole episode on this. I try to bring it up every year around Valentine's Day. But I believe whether the statistics are like that or not, doing an escape room as one of your first 3 dates just expedites the process. If you broke up because of the escape room, you're probably going to break up later down the road and you just saved yourself several dates.
That's a fair point.
That's nice.
But-
I'd marry that man.
Are you not easing that person into it further down the line so it could potentially change the outcome rather than it being like a first date but 6 months down the line? Do you think?
Yeah, I can see that point. I've pulled off the gas on my stance. I was like first date or nothing. But if you want to put it into like the range of first dates, whether that's first 3, first 5, sure, you can ease into it.
I
can
think
accept
3
that.
to 5 is good. I think 3 to 5 is
I
good.
was
I
a
think-
first date girl. I want to know right off the bat, are we going to get along?
Put him in.
Like, and I know I could do that at dinner or like, I don't know, a long walk on the beach, but you're going to see me in my prime in an escape room. This is the real me.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. You know what? In all fairness, seeing the flip side and going into the experience with the thought of, can you handle me? Is definitely a good
That's a
way
lot.
to think about it.
There's a lot to handle, man. Like, I don't have, let's go. Let's go. Time's ticking. We have 60 minutes. Show me what you can do.
I think if somebody came to me and offered a first date in an escape room, not knowing that I liked escape rooms, I'd probably be more open to the idea.
Yeah, if it wasn't
But-
your idea.
Yeah, I don't think I could ever put anyone through that knowingly.
And like you hadn't told them that you do an escape room podcast yet, or like you hadn't unloaded that little like bit
Yeah,
of your
that's
life.
a
to
small
them.
detail.
They'll book it and be like, oh well, I thought of a really cute date idea.
Like, wow, I've never done one of these before.
Yeah. Should we go to an escape room? I've heard they're really fun. And you're like,
This is me just slowly
yes.
becoming that whiz kid that goes to escape rooms.
And maybe because you have done all the ones in our area, you'll replay a game and then you will look incredibly smart.
True. I think I've done all of the ones in our local area, which is frustrating.
Yeah,
We
I
need
know.
more.
We need more. More games, please. Thank you.
So, of all of the guests that you guys have interviewed over your time on the Cager Express podcast, who would you say individually is your favorite guest that you've had on? It doesn't necessarily have to be a celebrity, it could just be friends or family that you've spoken to, and why?
So for me, there's a lot. There's a lot of people that I would choose, but just because of the company, the people I would choose are Madison and Luke Rhodes. So they are the owners of Crossroads in Southern California. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Hex Room, but that's where the infamous Hex Room lives. And I just think that what they created at the time they created was so ahead of the time that you still have a room that has gone through different iterations, but it's still that namesake after almost 10 years now, because they came out until like 2015, 2016. It's crazy that something that they created that long ago still has that namesake and still delivers every time for the new group. And it's not a room that people are like sparsely booking. Like this room is booked very often because of its popularity. And then on top of that, they brought other rooms to amplify what they started with. And just to hear the behind the scenes aspect and what went into it when they first started and hearing how they literally gave everything to make this work. I know that, and this is something that they've put publicly, so I'm not like throwing some behind the scenes stuff out there, is they put a lot onto credit cards just to make this work because they were so passionate about what they wanted to do and bring to the escape room world. And I remember they would post and be like, we just paid off one credit card. We are so excited and we feel like we're moving in the right direction. And just to see their story and then hear from them personally and get to ask them questions about the behind the scenes stuff, it was very exciting for me because they were one of the most memorable rooms that I first played early on in my escape room career. So for me, it would be the owners of Crossroads. And if I could interview them again, I have like more questions I could ask them because I'm so curious with the ideas that they come up with.
That was actually a really nice, thoughtful answer. So thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
Hopefully my answer is nice as well. But I think our favorite guest that we've had is the gentleman at the Ministry of Peculiarities, which is an escape room that is melding the line between escape rooms and immersive theater. They are kind of renowned as one of the best escape rooms out here and pushing the boundaries. But when you talk to them, they're very humble and almost act like they haven't done anything special. So when we got them on the show, they made us feel like we were the celebrity when, in all honesty, they were to us. So that's probably the best guest that I've had on the show. I honestly stray away from interviews. I don't like them in execution. I love the episodes with just me, Beth, and Tati, but of the interviews that we've done, that would be the one. It's Jonathan and Benjamin Burke at the Ministry of Peculiarities.
They're just funny dudes.
Yeah.
I think Edwin. Edwin was just really funny. That was I haven't done very many of the interviews, but I really enjoyed being a part of the interview with Edwin from Ky. Help me out here.
Unlockables.
Thank you. There's like a long list. There's quite a few. Quite a few escape room names.
Yeah, Edwin is the owner of the Unlockables here in San Diego. There's 3 locations, and he's been around probably since Tati and I started escape rooms back in 15, 16. But Beth, I'll let you talk a little bit more about Edwin in that episode.
Yeah, we were mostly talking about some of the projects that he had going on because he was doing more than just escape rooms. I believe at that time he was working on his podcast or launching a new podcast that was based on tabletop games. He was really, I love talking to him about tabletop games because he does have such a vast collection of them. And that's something that I just don't know very much about. And I just loved being able to hear him talk about all of that and how much work and creativity he was putting into his rooms. Like being able to pick his brain was just really, really fun.
I feel like the best interviews are always the ones where you can feel the enthusiasm and the passion sort of emanating from the person. Like, going into it when somebody's like, oh, I can't wait to talk about this. I can't wait to talk about what we're working on. You're just like, oh, yes, please tell us more.
Yeah. I just love a good energy like that. Obviously, I never got into tabletop games, but yeah, I love talking about it. So I was just like interested in hearing like how different they are from regular escape rooms or online escape rooms. And I genuinely need to actually give them a better shot.
I absolutely love tabletop escapes.
Yeah.
It's just like a home away from home. It's an escape room without leaving the house, which is great. If I can not socially interact with people, fantastic.
If I don't need to find a team,
Yeah, exactly. I can
See,
sit
that
in a
was
dark
also
room and play
why-
this on my own.
That was also why I was doing the first dates in the escape rooms because I really needed a second player. But that's going back to a past topic. There are like a few online or a few tabletop escape room games that I like. Like there's a few exit games that they're like in the smaller boxes that I like, but I feel like those are hit or miss. And I think that's why I got turned off from tabletop games because I haven't found like one company in particular that really just kills it every single time.
I can shoot you across some recommendations because I have over 50 games behind me on my
Yeah.
shelf.
Oh, I would love that.
Some that are absolutely phenomenal. So I think the exit games are what resparked my passion for escape rooms. It wasn't like actually doing an escape room again that resparked it. It was doing an exit game with a friend, and I was like, oh yeah, escape rooms are cool. I'm gonna go back and do one of those, and then it turned into what we have today. So
Yeah, and I think I sent you home from our escape room with like 5 exit games and
yeah, I now have an unholy amount. I think I've got 20 plus exit games and then 30, 40 plus other escape games. There's a lot, too many to do. But I'm slowly making my way through them. Shout out to a couple of notable ones. We've got USB Escape, we've got Scarlet Envelope, The Mystery Agency,
Oh,
The
that was a good one.
Enigma, Escape Tales, Professor Puzzle. There's some phenomenal games
Professor
out there.
Puzzle, man. And that one's like a super cheap game. Is that right? Is that the right one?
Yeah, Professor Puzzle Curse of the Dark is great
Yeah.
for the price point.
It's a brilliant game, and I think it's like £25 or something. It's so good.
We discussed this in what is going to be the previous episode that they really over delivered with that product.
Yeah.
Like they should be charging way more. Just to change the question ever so slightly to the question that I actually had written down, who would be your dream guest on the podcast to interview?
For me, a dream guest would be the person who created escape rooms. I just want to pick their brain. I want to know what they were thinking. Like, are they sane?
Why?
Are they not sane? Like, I feel like you have to be equally both to create this concept of locking people in a room, making them solve a bunch of puzzles to get out. So I just think whoever started this was so creative, and I would love to just learn about what started it, how they started it. I love the origin of things. So that's the person I would love to interview.
Are
He's
they alive?
totally still alive. Like his first game came out in 2007. Gotta be still alive, right?
Fingers
Fingers
crossed.
crossed. Let's try and get him on the podcast.
For guests, I don't really have any, but I would probably want to do an episode where we take the characters you find in escape rooms and have them on the show to stay in character. So there's so many different characters, but there's like a plant named Hubert from a game called Odd Pie, and it's just this really sassy plant that tells jokes but also gives you hints. I think it'd be cool to have that character on the show. So any sort of character you've ever been attached to in an escape room, I would want them on the show to put them through some of our crazy games.
Mine is so unrelated to escape rooms. I would want to interview Brittany Broski, who also has a podcast of her own, but it's more like crazy, unhinged comedy lifestyle. Like it's literally just her yapping. But I would love to put her into an escape room with us and just sort of see how she does, because she is just such a hilarious person and she's just got like the craziest energy. And I know that her and I would be best friends if I was put into a room with her. I think she's so funny. And I think even putting her into an escape room by herself and then like talking to her about that experience would be hilarious, because she does all of her podcasts solo and she's literally in like a room completely alone and she'll turn away from the microphone and just scream. And she's like, "What are you talking about?" She comes back and she goes, "I'm back." I'm back and I'm good. And I go, "Me too." And I want that. I want to see how she would do in an escape room. I'm just purely curious, honestly.
So if you could go back to when you first started the podcast and give yourself any advice to change how you did something, what would it be?
My only advice would be two things. One, buy Beth a microphone because Beth travels a lot. She's in very different locations when we record. So I figured let's just buy her a microphone and have her take it with her. That's my comical response. And my other response is very opinionated, but it would be never do what you guys are doing now with us, which is a dual or multi interview. It's the hardest thing to do. And I commend you for doing it with not only two, but three of us. I feel like it's just very hard to command and orchestrate. So applause to you, but I would try to stray away from that.
This is entirely down to you guys here. You guys have orchestrated this perfectly. Like, this is way more organized than we'd normally have it. So that's all down to you guys.
You came in with a plan, so we are happy.
Wonderful. We're glad to help where we can.
To piggyback off of what Kai was saying, my answer was literally to get a new microphone earlier, because I was like, AirPods are not going to cut it. As you can see, here's my backup. I'm using my AirPods because Wi-Fi is not working. But actually, I would go back and I would get better sound equipment and better Wi-Fi.
Advice to myself. I think in the beginning, I held back my true self. I wasn't as outspoken, I feel. I was more reserved, like when you first meet Tatiyana. But I have slowly taken the filter off, and I think it comes with more entertainment. And it also comes with more opinions or more conversation. So I would just tell myself to be my true self right off the bat instead of trying to be this polite Tatiyana, because I can be spicy sometimes. So I think it brings the fun.
Spicy's great. Spicy's good. I feel like that's a similar thing for myself as well, to be fair. I think I often overthink and worry about what other people think, which is great when you're putting stuff on the internet. People definitely don't let their voices be heard about everything that you produce. So yeah, it's certainly been a difficult journey, a weird one, but I agree. I think the more you can be yourself and the more you can do those kinds of things. It's the same with like normal life. I wish I'd been more myself when I was younger as well, because then I would have met the people that accepted me for who I was, as opposed to like pushing me away for, being the weirdo.
We're all weirdos here. It's fine, Corey.
Exactly. It's
That's
good to
right.
be a weirdo. And I wish I knew that sooner.
Yeah, I wish I wasn't as anxious as I was, because I think I didn't even talk about where I worked or the games that I'd played, or like to be fair, it was like a bit of a privacy thing. And then I had my old boss on and he was like, "Do you want to tell everybody where you're from and the exact city and where you used to work?" And I was like, yeah, fuck it. Like, if you guys want to come play games, fine.
Yeah, it's definitely been a developmental process, but I think it's definitely for the best. I think podcasting's certainly helped with aspects outside of my life. Like, I'm awful at maintaining conversations in general. Like, if somebody comes up to me and they're like, "Hey, how you doing? How's your day been? What you been up to?" And I'm just like, "Ah." But this has certainly helped sort of bring out, a more relaxed me who's not like, "I don't know what to say. What are they going to think of when I say this?" Or like, I'm not playing scenarios out in my head before I answer, like some sort of AI bot trying to analyze the response before giving it.
I think what it goes to is just people will listen, and if they like you, they like you. And I know that's a really hard thing to accept sometimes, because you want a lot of people, a lot of different kinds of people to like you. But if you're true to yourself, then the people that are your people, so to speak, will be attracted to you and you'll keep them in your life.
Yeah, 100%. It's like recently a friend put out a post saying, I'm deleting social media. If you need anything, you have my number. If you don't have my number, then you don't need to contact me anyway. And that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
I'm really bad at like reaching out and talking to people. But the moment that somebody's like, "Hi, how are you?" I'm like, "Oh, you're trapped now in a conversation that will last 3 hours."
Good luck leaving.
But I'm so
Yeah.
grateful for those friends that like you might have grown up with each other or you've gone to uni with each other and you've barely spoken since. I kind of forgot that my best friend was my best friend for a very long time just because we both grew up. We left our cities. We didn't stay when we went to uni, and like, yeah, she disappeared to London and she came back and was like, hi. And the message from her was literally like, hi, do you want to be friends again? And I was just like, yes, I do. And like went and sat on her sofa and ate chips. And we had the best evening of just catching up and like, oh, this is a rubbish boyfriend that I had, and this is what's happened here. And now I've got like an adult ass job. And we were both like, when did we turn into adults? Lovely. And if you've got
That's
a
so
friend
sweet.
that you've thought about them a lot and like you haven't spoken for a while, just send them a message being like, hi, do you want to be friends again? Because we are really funny together or we really get on. Like, do that. Send the message and let them know, like, hi, I want you to be a person in my life again. And
Are
I
we
love
slowly
that.
branching into motivational content? Is that what's
I
happening right
know.
now?
This is
Yes.
life lessons.
So wholesome. I love it. Having spoken to a lot of industry leading owners and creators, would you ever consider creating your own room? And if we were to give you an unlimited budget, hypothetically, because my budget is non existent right now, what would you create with an unlimited budget in terms of a room? What would you build?
I would build a Clue room based on the movie Clue, based on the board game Clue. I love the board game and I love the movie to bits. It's my favorite.
For the European listeners, this is Cluedo. It's named slightly different over here, and a lot of people don't realize it's the same game.
What was
Oh.
it?
Cluedo. So it's exactly the
Cluedo?
same, just with a dough on the end of it. D-O.
Oh.
Oh.
Are the characters different?
Do you guys have like Colonel Mustard, Miss Scarlet?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly the same, just different name for
Oh,
some
cool.
Why
Awesome.
would they name it different?
I didn't catch the name. What's the name in the US?
reason. Clue.
It's
The Clue. Or just Clue.
That's boring, isn't it?
So what would you say? I mean, it makes way more sense than Cluedo. Like, where did that name come from? I don't know why they've called it that, because it is literally just Clue. It's exactly the same thing.
Huh.
Cluedo.
So what would your actual escape room environment be? Is there a Clue map, or would it be the spooky mansion that's stereotypical with Clue?
It would be more like the spooky mansion, hopefully based on the movie, because I do love how that mansion looks. And I would love it to be a game where you could replay it multiple times and you would get a different mystery. You would get a different weapon, a different killer, a different room. And, with an unlimited budget and a lot of brains, I'd be hoping to like close certain doors that you might have been able to access the last time you played. So that way you can see other rooms and find other weapons and other like clues so you can find your killer at the end. And then your escape would be to get the correct killer, weapon, room.
Replayability is such a big thing going forwards in escape rooms that I don't think anybody's like cracked super well just yet, but it's such an interesting concept that I really look forward to, because those games when you go play them for the first time and you're like, I wish I could just forget this and go back and do it all again. The best feeling ever. So if somebody can unlock that replayability aspect and have me experience it over and over again, then they will be siphoning money from my account.
So for me, I have always wanted to. I even got to the point of putting out all the finances earlier on in my escape room career because I so desperately wanted to do this, just never had the funds. So yes, is the answer to the first question. I would. But the difficult part would be leaving my primary job. I wouldn't have the time and the space to do it. So I would have to hire someone to come run it full time, but I'd still want to be a part of it. So that would be the tricky logistics of it as of right now. If I could build anything, my first thought, and this was, you have to remember, from like 2016. So it was to create a multi-chapter experience, which is becoming a thing now, which I absolutely love. There is a company up in Northern California called Off the Couch that is taking the idea of what I wanted, but with a different theme. So essentially, they're all standalone rooms, but you have the option to play them back to back to back if you want to. And that's what I envisioned years ago. So my first initial thought was to create a hotel. And as soon as you step into the building, you are in the lobby of this hotel. And you would enter your first room. And the storyline, I don't want to give it away in case I ever get to do this. But essentially, you're just going for a vacation, things go haywire, and you have to make your way through the hotel to escape what is happening. I've had a lot of ideas. I would love to see if they're actually possible because I have yet to see them in escape rooms. So that would be what I would envision, is a multi-chapter experience.
Open to investors, if anyone's listening.
Open to investors. Get it on the marketplace. It sounds like you're creating a scary room, Tati.
It wouldn't be scary.
Okay. All right. All right.
Not too scary. Not like actors are trying to kill you.
Well, I'll put that to the test and I'll let you know if it's scary.
I would absolutely create an escape room if I had the money to do so. I still have plans of getting to a pseudo retirement point in my finances where I can quit my job unexpectedly and just live with the ups and downs of escape room economy. But I would create a bunch of things. I have so many ideas in my head. I've talked about it a lot, that I would create a wrestling room a la Hispanic luchador wrestling. That's one idea. And then I have another idea where I would create kind of like a Moby Dick / Pinocchio adventure with water.
Inside of the whale.
Where there's a giant whale and you got to go in the whale, and then there's rooms, you're in the lungs, you're in the stomach, and there's some sort of fantasy that adds itself. So it's not just anatomy that you're interacting with, but there's some sort of fantasy to the story once you get inside the whale. I think those would be my 2 starting rooms. And then based upon my success, I would just let my brain go wild.
That's so intriguing, but also gross.
I think that's part of memories, is you remember the things that are like terrifying, like embarrassing, emotion inducing, and grossness, like is some of the things that scar you. Obviously you don't want it to scar you too much. Like you want it to keep you on board so you still play the room, but you're like, hey, remember that room that was really gross?
Yeah, true. I did a room a while ago where we unlocked like a well.
Okay.
And you then had to fish something out of the well. And I put my hand in and I reached around and I got out this item. And I was like, this water stinks, man. And the person who was games mastering the room was like, yo, that's what the magnet beside the well's for, so you can lower it down and pick this item out. And I just had this really like gooed up, stinky arm that had been in this like sewage water. So for the 45 minutes of the game after that, I just stunk and nobody would go anywhere near us. But it was memorable, so...
I mean, I guess that's solving the puzzle by any means necessary.
Yeah, I was ready to dive in head first, and I'm really glad I didn't.
I'm glad you didn't either.
So to wrap this up a little bit, what are your plans for the future, both individually and as the Cager Express podcast?
I am simply on the road to 300 escape rooms done. I've been doing that for a long time because, you know, they get
300's a lot.
expensive.
Yeah, very expensive.
We're getting there. Slow trek and financially disheartening.
Yeah, people
But,
in the
I mean, it's a great time.
2000s both inspire and terrify me.
Yeah.
That's like $60,000 minimum worth
Like a
of
mortgage
escape
payment,
rooms. So that's
isn't it?
absurd.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and then like traveling, because I've just been doing rooms mostly in Southern California. I've done a few out of state, very few. But I know there's people who will travel all the time and they'll just do escape rooms during these like huge trips, like Tati. And I'm always like, I want to do that. I want to do it so bad.
Just to go off of that, for personal, Kai and I will be going to Tennessee. It originally started because there's a room there that's only in Tennessee out of all of the escape game companies. So from there, it became a vacation because not only do I enjoy playing escape rooms, but I like to, one of my personal goals is to go to all 50 states and to actually experience what that state has to offer. So if I'm going there to play a specific escape room, I might as well see what the environment is, see what Tennessee is all about. So that's happening actually in a few weeks.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh, Kai.
It is.
Yeah, so we'll be there for a full week and doing a bunch of escape rooms. We have like 6 planned on Halloween Day. Super stoked.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. And then we also found like a local scary mansion that they do for the month of October. So we'll also be ending our day with that on Halloween Day. So I think that'll be a really fun experience. And then, of course, we're going to go play. We are literally ending our vacation with the room that we are anticipating and very excited for. So I am one of those crazies that will go and plan a whole vacation centered around escape rooms. But yeah, that's a personal thing of mine. And as far as the podcast, I think that's up to Kai. But I know for me, I'm at like 330 something. I'd love to hit 400 next year, but that would mean I'd have to do some massive damage.
Yeah. I'm at 338. So I know Tati and I are pretty close together on that. As far as my personal escape room goals, I am approaching a phase of my escape room life where I don't think the number matters anymore. And especially with the price of escape rooms, I think it's just playing the right ones. So if I get to 400 or not, I'm not sure. I'm sure I'll get there, but it's not necessarily a goal for mine. It's just playing the ones that I've always heard of and want to do before they close. So that includes traveling outside of the United States and getting to places like the UK, the Netherlands, all these places we've heard about in Topeka, to say, I need to experience that, and heaven forbid they close before we can get there. So those are my personal goals for escape rooms. For the podcast, to Tati's point, I write the show, I pick the topics for the most part, and I have some plans to bring in more games elements to them, to where people can listen in and like play the games with us. And then I actually have plans of bringing back other elements of my podcast that are not escape break. So I'll still always do escape break, but it's all about balancing and trying to figure out what are the relevant topics to talk about, and just balancing everything too. Like I commend you guys for doing so many shows, having it all lined up. We've gone through phases where I've done that, and Tati will tell you I burn out, and I tell Tati, hey, we got to slow down. And Tati's like, no,
Whereas I'm like, let's
go.
go.
So we've gone through phases where we do an episode a week, and we're currently in the kind of 1 to 2 episodes a month phase right now. So certainly the tempo will change, ebb and flow, but continuing to do escape break is still in the plans, and continuing to reach, I guess, different parts of the world, honestly, is part of the plans. And you guys have been a huge help, and honored to do that.
We'd certainly welcome you all with open arms to the UK if you guys want to come across and do some rooms. Or if you're in Europe in general, let us know. Europe's pretty small in the grand scheme of things. So
Yeah.
we're like an hour and a half, 2 hours away from like everything in Europe by flight. So
Nice.
yeah,
That'd be
and small.
great.
So if you're about, let us know.
Yeah, definitely. We certainly will send you a message once we book the tickets out there, because I think everyone here would want to go.
Yeah, you would do like a month, I think, in Europe in general, just to like really smash escape rooms. I think there's so many amazing ones, and yeah, I'm
You
always
need to
game
take out
for.
a fat loan. But
You do need to take a fat lane out. But yeah, you could spend more, like you could spend a whole year just doing escape rooms, let's be honest.
Yeah,
For sure.
I like that. I like that life.
I
On a,
know.
on a counter statement, have you guys been to the United States to play escape rooms at all?
I have not been to the States full stop, and it is very high on my list. I really
Okay.
want to come across and do Halloween Horror Nights, being a massive horror fan, and
Yeah.
obviously all of the incredible escape rooms over there. I think the main issue I have is because the States is so big and there's so many different things I want to do in so many different places,
hmm
it's figuring out how to do so and it be remotely financially viable. Yeah, having listened to your guys' podcast and all of the incredible recommendations like Cybernetics and Hex Room and
Yeah.
like hearing all of those so constantly spoken about in high regard, I'm just like, "Ugh, I'm missing out here. I need to get across there and play some games and yeah, really experience it all. And I think the States does it on a whole different level to the UK. And I think Europe are slowly starting to push that way, like Greece and Budapest and a few places like that are really sort of fronting it. But yeah, I think the scale that you guys are working on over there is just on a whole nother level, and I can't wait to experience it.
That's awesome. It's funny.
That's not to downplay the UK, by the way.
But we
The
think
UK
the exact
escape room seems
opposite.
insane.
We think the exact opposite. At least for me, I think the other parts of the world, like most, when you live in America, sometimes you think you're number one, but you're really not. And so I have this hope that when I go to other parts of the world, I get to experience the superiority of what you guys create. So I'm excited, despite your statement about escape rooms. I'm excited to experience what you guys have to offer.
Yeah, I retract making my statement sound so like downplayed on our end because there are some absolutely phenomenal ones. I think it's just the sheer amount of like rooms you guys have. I think
Yeah,
the sort
sure.
of percentage of good rooms to bad rooms is significantly higher just because obviously the numbers are significantly higher.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I also
that's
think it's like media. Like you guys have so many podcasts relating to escape rooms. You've also like they're really a thing over there.
Yeah.
And it might sound really silly, but escape rooms weren't really a thing until like 2023 here. That was when everything started to properly ramp up and these
Yeah, I
huge
think
companies were opening and taking
the UK
over.
sort of caught it back in 2015-ish.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
it didn't really take off until after COVID.
hmm
And everything sort of came back to fruition. But it means there's still a lot of first generation games that have sort of survived that. So yeah, I think maybe we just need to play catch up a little bit. We're just sort of in a different stage. But
Sure.
yeah, it also means that it's super exciting for the future.
I know we
Yeah.
didn't touch on the travel, but my answer to that was Europe, just Europe in general, because I feel like there are so many to do over there that we can spend a month. And I think it would be so exciting to do nothing but escape rooms for a whole month.
I mean, I'm game. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of anything better than that.
I won't pay my rent for that month. However, I
Yeah,
won't
and
be
Europe's stunning as a whole. Like the cities are beautiful as well. The fact that they have incredible escape rooms to add to the culture is just a secondary perk.
Hi, Beth. We're going to Europe.
We're going to Europe. We're going to Europe.
I would like to go to Europe.
Yeah.
there. So where can people find you on like social media and stuff like that?
Not your
Yeah.
actual address.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Our podcast is called The Cager Express. So you can find us with that handle on Instagram, on Facebook. Through The Cager Express is the show Escape Break, which is the only currently running show right now. So Instagram is where we're most active. That's actually how I got connected with both of you two. And if you happen to see us out in the wild, Wild Beth, Wild Kai, Wild Tati, say hello. We're all very friendly and we'd love to see you. We just love spreading the love about escape rooms. And I want to keep this bit and truth alive. We happily take the world's second best escape room podcast position because the first escape room podcast, the best one out there, is you guys.
The
led
Reality
by-
Escape podcast.
No, not even that. They're certainly third. They're certainly third in my opinion. You guys are number one because Andy from Morty said so.
Ah, and then retracted that statement immediately as soon as it was posted on social media.
That is the
Yeah.
truth. That is the truth.
I appreciate that massively. It really means a lot. Like, I don't think people appreciate the amount of time and effort, and you'll know this, that goes into editing a podcast and just scheduling everything and sorting out
Mhm.
social media and stuff like that. So to hear that it's well received is
Yeah.
it means the absolute world, and it makes it all the hard work and sleepless nights and juggling multiple hobbies and
Yeah.
other things and work. Oh my goodness, I have to actually get paid.
That's the thing too. All jokes aside, there are no rankings, but I really do appreciate what you guys do because you actually love escape rooms. And I think that matters in content creation because if that love is gone, then it just turns into the majority of the media that is today.
Yeah, and we always try to be super positive, and I feel like the internet nowadays is incredibly negative. So if we can bring any sort of happiness and passion and joy and knowledge, I think, yeah, it means the world. So I'm glad that resonates.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for spending your time with us. Obviously, this has been a long while coming, and we are in completely different time zones. It is currently pitch black outside for us, but it looks like it is early morning time for you guys. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Again, thank you so much for joining us. For the people listening, please do check out the Cager Express. It's absolutely incredible. If you're ever in Southern California, do check out the incredible rooms that they've got, or go say hello to the guys. They're absolutely incredible. If you did enjoy the podcast, remember to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and we will catch you in the next one. Bye.
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 Bye.